one of my main interests is how do we individually actually feel connected to or included in a part of the climate debate which actually matters. Because I, as an individual, very often think it is so abstract, it is so hard to understand, and I don't understand how my personal actions actually really matters. I would like to start by what actually happens once we start getting involved or engaged in a work of art. This particular work is, what you're looking at is water falling from this ceiling. There's a few spotlights on you can see the spotlights up there. And as you know, when water falls and there's a light on it, just like the sun, for instance, you have the spectral colors a little bit like a rainbow. And this means that depending on where you stand and how you move, and from what height or angle you look at it, you will see a rainbow. And of course, every person in this particular room sees a different rainbow because depending on where you stand. And what we see on the picture is the view from the camera. So the colors that we see in this picture is not the colors what the people are seeing, if you understand. And in that sense, it sort of addresses this idea of your highly personal experience is, of course, not visible for the other people. And in that sense, there is, and because there is not an object, there is water. What you see really depends on how you move. There's not a classical sculpture. The experience itself becomes the primary notion, and it's called the Weather Project. And it was the first time that I addressed the phenomena, the weather, or we could say nature in the city, as a collective construct. So in this way, I have worked with various natural phenomena within museums. I will show you a few examples. This is in Bregenz in Austria, and this is waterfalls in New York. This is at the Versailles Garden in France, together with this work here. And then I have worked with a number of works involving ice. So, when you look at a block of ice, it is, I think, very easy to understand it is ice. You can see it from some distance even, and when you walk up to it, you can even also feel the chill or the coldness of the ice. And very interestingly, a lot of people, and this is something that I would like to talk about, a lot of people, they look at the ice, they say, this is ice. And then people put their hand on the ice and they say, oh, it's cold. And of course, everybody knows this because it's ice, but still, the knowledge from the hand is different than the knowledge from the head. So when I spoke about the sensitizing people or making explicit using natural phenomena, and of course what it comes down to is that our actions, our behavior, what also is called behavioral psychology, very much depend on what we are emotionally and physically involved with rather than what we know. So surprisingly, or not so surprisingly we could say, knowing something does not necessarily encourage us to act upon it as much as having a physical relationship with it, or having a muscle memory of it, or having experienced something personally. Here is also the case where you really easily see from quite some distance that this is ice. And interestingly, once you get closer to these ice blocks, it turns out they are very, very beautiful. This is in Paris during the COP22. Some 3 years ago, and these are blocks of ice that I picked up in Greenland in the harbor in front of the city of Ilulissat, and I sent them on a ship to Paris. These are pictures from recently where I did it in London, and as you can see, the people are in fact interested in getting closer to the ice. What we read about in the papers, what we hear the politicians are talking about, not all of them, and what we understand is actually going on in Greenland or on the South Pole, becomes suddenly very explicit. This is not a big project, I understand that, but still it allows for this very simple exercise to take something which is abstract and make it very explicit. So here it is about giving a voice to something that otherwise stays abstract in our head. It's very much, as I said about before, sensitizing your relationship with a topic which we know almost enough about. We all know a lot about the climate, but we don't have any direct physical relationship with it yet. And my question is whether art and culture in this case is capable of taking something which is abstract, making it explicit, give it a physical relationship, and also give it a dimension where you feel that you are allowed to say something. You feel that you are being listened to. And these things together, I believe, I think, allows us to take a stronger stand in questions around the climate. We are more likely to be motivated to change behavior if we feel listened to, meaning that I am actually good enough, and if I have a physical relationship to the world around me. So I designed a small work of art. On one side of the artwork there's a little solar panel, and inside there is a rechargeable battery and an LED. So actually in Berlin I was out harvesting my own energy when the sun was shining. So I brought it here to Japan, and now I can show you how the sun in Berlin looks like. And of course it is the same sun, as nobody owns the sun yet, at least. So this means what I'm holding in my hand is in fact a small power station. And if I use this to read, I do not turn on the light in my room, which means that the power from the light will not be consumed, and therefore less coal will be burned at the fossil plant, or less nuclear will be burned at the nuclear plant, and so on and so forth. So what we spoke about is, I believe, the thing that culture is capable of is taking something which is not yet articulated and to make it explicit. Maybe not in language, but at least in color or in shape. And it also allows us to feel that we are capable of doing something. We feel listened to, and we feel we are good enough.